Hi there, the Joey Apps from Dink Digital. Just a quick video giving my thoughts on Infamous Second Son. Appreciate it's a bit late, but what I'm doing is just going back through my back catalogue of games that I've played on the next gen consoles. So this was the first game I played, so it makes sense to start here. And what I'll be doing is I'll work my way through the games, and I'll eventually get up to date. So it's not difficult to get these up and out. So it's just sitting here talking bollocks about games, so it's not going to be tricky to do. So once we're up to date, there'll be a bit more more recent games, but there's obviously going to be people out there probably hasn't purchased Infamous Second Son when its first cycle through. So here's a chance. If you're on the fence, this will help you go out and get it. Guess I should start by mentioning that I haven't played any of the previous Infamous games. So I've got no past experience of this IP or this world, this universe, if you will. I've not played Crackdown or Prototype, which has been similarities drawn to, so I've come in pretty much fresh off the boat. So it's worth keeping that in mind, because I know there have been some complaints or opinions that it's not moved on enough as it should have done, could be a fair point, but that's not for me to say because I have no opinion of that. I'll start by just mentioning the graphics. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward, really good. Looked really good this game. When I first booted it up, I was thinking, wow, this is pretty impressive. Now, there's always going to be an argument whether this generation cycle is going to have a big enough jump in the graphical side of things from the last games, because we've gone from standard definition to HD, from the PlayStation 2, Xbox to the Xbox 360 to PlayStation 3. Whereas at the moment we're all in HD still, so the Xbox 360, PS3 to PS4 to Xbox One, and the jump probably isn't going to be as big, but that's a separate argument for a separate day, which I won't carry on with here. All you need to know about Infamous Second Son, looks really good, so if you're interested, or you like good looking games, pretty games, and you enjoy just going around admiring the scenery, this is a game that you can do that in. Everything looks really good, and I've got no complaints about the aesthetic side of the game. Overall, my thoughts are that the game is fun. It's very fun. It's just a game that you can pick up and play. The story, despite not having a lot of depth as such, is pretty run-of-the-mill. It's not trying to be pretentious though or serious, so it works in its favour. You get a lot of games where they try to make it too serious. They try and give you this big, heavy story to take in, and it doesn't pull off. You get it wrong, it looks worse, looks 10 times worse. This game knows that that's not what it wants to do. It's laid back, it's light-hearted, it's not trying to be serious. The gameplay is easy to pick up, the gameplay is pretty straightforward, and it all gels really well together. Now obviously you're going to get powers during the game. I won't spoil all of them. I mean, the ones that are out there, I mean, you probably know anyway, but I'll just do the two main ones that you knew about before release, which was Smoke and Neon. The powers you use separately, you cannot combine them. People moaned about that. I don't have a problem with it. I quite like having just separate powers because they've all got different strengths and weaknesses. I like the fact that you have a meter, a power meter, so as you start using a smoke power or a neon power, it will degenerate and go down, and once you get to the bottom, your power will not be there anymore. You cannot use anything. So it's important that if you're in battle and you haven't quite finished everyone off, you're getting to the small part of your meter bar, you can go and find a power source. So for neon it'll be a neon light of sorts, and smoke it'll be a smoke field, like a fire. You could start a fire to manipulate that, and then you can refill your bar. So that's a great little addition, and it fleshes out the gameplay a little bit more. Side missions and the story campaign gameplay wise, as I said, it's easy to pick up and play, but they're pretty dull. They're not going to be blowing your brain with new side quests and whatnot. Once the side quests mainly consist of either going to fetch stuff, or you're wiping out an enemy base and then unlocking that area, which we've seen so many times. Ubisoft seem to use it in every single game that they make. So if you're familiar with that type of style of play and you like that style of play, then you're probably going to get on well with this, because there's plenty of places to clear out and unlock, if you will. There's collectibles, there's all sorts of shit you can do. It's an open world, so you can go away and do that. As I said, the story is not exactly serious, which is fine, but the campaign missions are not overly good in variety or anything like that, which is a bit of a pain. But as I mentioned earlier, this is these two facts, that the side and story campaigns aren't the best, are pretty much offset by the fact that gameplay is still enjoyable. So even if you are sort of doing similar things over and over again, you're still going to enjoy it. It's still a good game to play, and it doesn't feel like a chore like it does with some gameplay or some games where you're struggling to get through it. You think, fuck me, I just want to get through this game. I reckon most people, I got to the end and I thought, that's fine, it's probably just about right. I was just about having enough of it, and I cleared out the whole map. I've done all the story campaign, and I was like, right, that's about right for me, and I can stop playing this. Brings me on to another point, that there's the replayability of the game. Although it's advertised that you can go for either good or an evil playthrough, there's fuck all difference in it, I'll be honest. There's a small sort of dialogue changes, and Delsa might say, Delsa's the main character, but I didn't mention that, might as well now, might say different things, and people around him might react differently, but that's not enough to warrant a second playthrough. I did both playthroughs, and it was still fun, but there's not a great deal of benefit of going back and doing them. You do get a few extra powers, and that you can level up your powers, and you earn new skills within each power. So essentially what that allows you to do is, if you go for an evil playthrough, you get lethal takedowns essentially a lot of the time. If you go for a good playthrough, they pacify the enemies. They don't kill them, they just sort of disable them in some way by capturing them or shooting their legs or whatever. So unless you're interested in experiencing both sides of the coin, I said there's not a great deal of difference in between them, but it's interesting to see some of the different skills that you couldn't get on your first playthrough. And if you're a trophy hunter, then that's going to be part of the requirement to go through the game on 2 bounces and get both good and evil outcomes. Pretty easily get the platinum. I've got the platinum, and I'm by no means an achievement hunter or a trophy hunter or any of that sort of thing. I just saw it looked, the tasks looked straightforward, and they were. And I did it. I thought I'd just get one, and I'm happy with that. Probably won't ever platinum another game as long as I live, although that might come back to bite me. Overall, the game, wasn't too heavy or taxing to play. If you're expecting a sort of a Last of Us story-driven film-like experience, you're not going to get that here. It's pretty laid back, and that's good in my opinion. It's not taxing, as I said. You're not going to get blown away by new sort of gameplay features. The graphics are nice, as I said, the graphics are nice, but the gameplay has been done before, the missions have been done before, but it's enjoyable to play. And for me, a lot of people have been shitting on the game, saying it doesn't do enough, it's not fair enough. If you're sick and sort of fatigued with the inFAMOUS sort of universe, fine, but for someone like me who's new to it, it was familiar, a lot of the stuff, but it was still good for me, it was still enjoyable, and it's a throwback to what games were invented for, to sit down and enjoy for a few hours and just forget about other things that's going on in the real world. You can sit down and play this game, there's no stress involved, it's just enjoyable from start to finish. So how could I not recommend that game? That's what games are designed to do. So yeah, inFAMOUS Second Son, PlayStation 4, recommended. So that's that in the books. There'll be some more videos. As I said, there's a back catalogue of games that I have played. It's not too many. I should be able to get them done relatively quickly, depending on time constraints and other things. But for future videos, I will be trying to get some gameplay footage to sort of paste over this. So you'll just cut between gameplay and me. I think that'll work quite well. It'll stop people getting bored just bogging at my ugly face, and you get to see the game in action. Now, there are some games that I don't have access to any longer, like this one, inFAMOUS Second Son. I've traded it, so I didn't capture any footage beforehand. I didn't really know I was going to start up this channel, so that's the rationale behind that. But for future games that I do still have access to, I will be capturing gameplay footage and just sort of putting that over the top, so you'll be hearing the audio and just seeing what the game's like in action. It won't necessarily relate to what I'm talking about, but you'll get a good look at the game, which I think can be important sometimes, so you can just see it in action. Other than that, thanks for your time, and ta-da!